Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Brad, welcome to Consulting Leaders.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
Let's do this. So, tell us the story, Brad. How did you get into the world of capital raising, and how did your early experience as a founder shape the way you operate today?
Well, let's just say I didn't roll out of bed saying I want to be a capital raiser. When I was much younger, I was actually guided in the direction of becoming an architect and went off to school to study architecture. And in my senior year, in a 5-year degree plan, so that would be my 4th year, I responded to a small ad in the local newspaper. I lived in Austin, Texas at the time and was going to school at the University of Texas. And this CEO of a small oil company looked at me. I was 21. And I guess he saw a confident little cocky kid. And he said, if you can come in between your classwork and after school, we'll teach you how to get on the telephone and reach out to high net worth individuals and raise capital for our oil and gas drilling programs. I said, great. So here I was, 21 years of age, and going into the office between my classwork and after school, calling out to people in California and Arizona and other parts of the United States. Got really, really good at it. And I was probably working about 12, maybe 15 hours a week, and was making close to 6 figures. Now, back in those days, 6 figures was a lot of money. And what I started to realize is that when I graduated from university, if I went to work in corporate America as a full-time architect, I'd probably be making 50 to 60,000. So I bet on myself and I said, wow, I wonder what I could do if I actually invested myself and started doing this full-time. So unbeknownst to my parents, who like most parents scrimped and saved their entire lives to put their 4 kids through school, I just kind of turned my back to completing my education and started working full-time in the oil and gas space, raising capital. Went to work for a second company doing exactly the same thing. And then with some savings that I had accumulated at the age of 23, I went off on my own and actually started my own business, raising capital from investors. Now, here's what I'll share with you that was pretty funny now that I look back at this experience. I had never drilled an oil well in my entire life. I knew absolutely nothing at all about running a multi-million-dollar company. I just was this bold, confident kid, 23, that put a shingle on the door that said Third Coast Petroleum. But what I did know how to do was raise capital. And so, I hired a couple of people and I found the things you need. I found a geologist. I hired a securities attorney. I got a CPA to start keeping my books and records. And then over the course of about a decade, almost 10 years, we built a pretty nice sized little small oil company with drilling programs in Texas and Oklahoma, Louisiana. And then in the late 1980s, early 90s, a couple of major events really just kind of rattled the industry. We had lowering energy prices. We had, of course, a big change in the tax laws and the tax structure that took away a lot of the incentives. And so I had to make one of the most challenging, probably tough decisions I've ever had to make as an entrepreneur. And that was, do I put a lot of my personal savings or maybe borrow from banks to try to keep the business afloat? Or do I just slowly collapse the business and then go on and do something else? And so I chose the latter because it was really the safer bet. We were debt free. I never had to think about bankruptcy. That never entered my mind. But over the course of about a year, we just slowly kind of, collapsed the business, took care of all the employees. As I say, we did it the right way. We gave everybody severance. And then I went back to school. You see, and I finished the undergraduate degree that I had never completed before. And when I came out, I was very disillusioned. And really at that point in my life, now in my mid-30s, newly married, wanting to start a family, will openly admit, I kind of went into a mild depression because people wanted to hire me and offer me salaries that were comparable to what I would earn in a good month. And I just said, I can't do this. Here I was, a oil company executive doing extremely well, Now in my 30s, people want to pay me a salary that was close to what I would make in a month. And I just kind of went from job to job, just really kind of trying to find myself. And what I realized was my hard skill, like the one thing that I was really good at, was knowing how to attract and raise capital. And I realized that that was something that most business owners and entrepreneurs really need to understand, because the way to scale a business or to grow a company a lot of times is by accessing capital. And so many times business owners will go to a bank and they'll get turned down because they get bad credit, or they don't have a track record, or they just lack the things that a bank or a lending institution would look for. And I said, I bet my skill is something that a lot of businesses would really have an interest in. And so I kind of entered the career path of financial services as a hired capital raiser, raising hundreds of millions, and over the course of my career, well over $2 billion now, for some of the largest financial services firms in the world. And when I retired, a lot of people continue to call me, hey, you still raising money? No, kind of hung my hat. And then I started a consulting platform about 5 years ago. And what we've grown to become now is the preeminent premier global consulting and advising company that really teaches people how to attract, how to raise, and how to close investor capital, so that they can build, buy, scale a business, or, kind of like I like to say, just do something bigger in life. I think a lot of people out there are level 10 people, and they're stuck in level 4 opportunities, and they're frustrated. And they are stuck because they don't have the capital, perhaps, to do something they want to do, like get into real estate, or maybe open a restaurant, or start a business. And so it's really been an amazing journey for us, because what we've been able to do with my knowledge and our team is really change the lives and transform a lot of people's future by sharing them this one skill, and that is how to approach investors and how to raise capital.
I love the background story. I think that sets the right foundation for the next question, which is, what is the number one problem that you solve, Brad? So is it only raising capital? Is it helping them with shaping the business correctly so that you can raise capital? Once you have raised the capital, what do you do? Like, all this for what? What's the goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really all of those. We work with people that are brand new to this, that have never raised money before. I also consult billion-dollar companies that have raised a lot of money, but that want to continue to grow and perhaps learn how to raise capital from different sources. Maybe they've raised money from rich, wealthy people, or maybe they've raised money from what we call family offices. These are typically investment offices that are owned by very wealthy people that typically might have a business exit, or run very successful companies like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or, Larry Ellison that owns Oracle. These very prominent people like that have family offices built around them to manage all of their family wealth. But now they come to me and say, hey, Brad, we want to learn how to build distribution through broker dealers, raise capital on Wall Street, whatever. And so the couple of mistakes that we always see people make. Number one, when we raise capital from investors, when they are investing with us in a passive manner, meaning I am investing with you, I'm not doing anything, I'm relying on your efforts to basically create a return on my investment dollars, we're now in the securities business. Now, the securities industry, as we know, is highly regulated in most countries. Doesn't matter what country you're in, you typically have some type of a regulatory body that oversees this to prevent fraud, misrepresentation, and make sure that there's lots of transparency and that investors get access to the materials they need to go through and do proper due diligence. So the very first thing, a lot of times, is people are raising money, they don't know what they don't know, and they're breaking the law, meaning they're not compliant. They're not doing the procedural things they need to be doing in order to be compliant throughout their capital raise. So we teach that, hey, you got to be compliant. You got to understand that you're working within the confines of the SEC, or in other countries, maybe in Canada. Each province has a securities division, or in Australia, we have clients there. The second thing, which is really the biggest mistake, is they don't have systems and structure. And we see this not just in capital raising. Of course, we see this in all businesses in general. You see it in sales. You see it in a lot of other things, meaning they don't have good follow-up. They might be talking to people. The people might express interest, but then they fall through the cracks because that business owner doesn't have a quality CRM system to create the tasks or put the reminders on the calendar, right? To say, hey, I got to follow up with Mr. Smith today because I spoke to him a week ago and he expressed interest. So without that, a lot of people are guilty of what I call randomness in motion. You think you're busy as hell, and if I talk, you say, oh yeah, I'm talking to a lot of people. Oh great, well, how much money have you raised? Zero. Then we try to figure out why it's zero and not a larger amount. And usually it's because all of these people that have expressed interest are just falling through the cracks. So we solve for that. And then the third, which is also very important, is not being investor ready. Okay, now let me explain to you what I mean by that. Being investor ready means you have all of the elements you need so that when somebody says, yeah, it sounds like an interesting idea or it sounds like an exciting opportunity, do you have some information you can send to me? You got stuff to send to them. Like you got a pitch deck, right? You got maybe a one-page fund summary that talks about the investment or the deal. You have what we call a private placement memorandum that shares some of the risk disclosures and the people on the team and the investment objectives, because that's what investors are expecting to get when they invest in any type of a business opportunity or an investment. And so many people just lack that. They don't have it, or maybe they do, but the challenge is the pitch deck perhaps they did themselves. And so now when they send that out, you see the potential investors, the investor gets it and they go, oh, I don't know, honey, it kind of looks like a mom and pop operation. What do you think? Yeah, I agree. You see, it doesn't look like a big institutional company that gives comfort or allows people to move forward without a lot of the hesitations or concerns. So we help people through that as well. So to get back to your question directly, we really help people with almost everything. I like to say we are a one-stop shop for anything and everything people need, really, in the world of attracting and raising capital.
I like that. And I think you've already alluded to that, but can you give us a bit more of an understanding of like, who is it that you help specifically? So is it going to be the moms and pop shop, or do you have a specific industry? Do you have a specific niche? Do you have a specific company size? I mean, obviously people who haven't raised capital yet, or did they, and they want to raise more and they don't know how to? Like, who is it that you help specifically, Brad?
I'd say that in our community, probably 65, maybe 70% of the people are in the real estate business in some form or fashion. It might be that they're investing in single family homes. Maybe they're doing some renovation, they're doing some rentals, whatever. Others, of course, are investing in things like apartment communities or other types of real estate. And then the other maybe 35, maybe 40% are in other businesses. We have a lot of people that are raising money perhaps for Broadway shows, major motion pictures. We've done some movie raises before. We have people that are now, of course, getting into the artificial intelligence, the AI space, and data storage, data centers. We have people that are raising capital to go out and simply acquire and buy businesses. And they have maybe what we call a holding company, and they're buying businesses, not sexy businesses, but, things that generate revenue and income that they share with their investors. And so really, the attraction or the ability to raise capital can be used for just about anything. We have people that own wineries that are expanding and growing their wineries or getting into the restaurant space. As long as you can share a vision and really communicate to a potential investor how they're going to get a return on their investment and how they can see that and understand that, you can raise capital for just about anything. And how I actually got started in this space that we're now in, which is going into our 6th year, is I started really as a business consultant, not teaching people how to raise capital, just as a business consultant. And I would always ask people an interesting question, because I'm of the belief that a large percentage of people go through life and really they don't like what they do for a living. I kind of call it, you got the one foot out the door, always looking for that next opportunity syndrome. But I would always ask people, if you weren't doing what it is you're doing now for a living, what would you really want to be doing? And see, what that question does is it opens up their mind to the dreams, the goals, the aspirations. And so many people say, oh my God, Brett, for so long, I've always wanted to open a restaurant, or I've always wanted to get into real estate business, or I've always wanted to do this. And then I would follow it up with question number 2. Well, if that's what you would prefer to be doing, why are you not doing it? And here's the interesting thing. It was never the limiting belief or the fear that was holding them back. It came down to one thing. They just didn't have the money. Maybe they went to a bank. Maybe they thought about getting what we call an SBA loan from the U.S. government, right? Whatever the reason, it was not the fear, it was a lack of capital. And here I am, I've raised $2 billion. And I'm sitting there going, my God, don't you realize when you roll out of bed, you're surrounded by all the money you need. We just call these other people investors. And so if I could just teach you how to attract and how to raise and close capital from investors, I could make that dream of yours become a reality. And so that's why I launched the platform of what we do. And when you look at the testimonials and you start to talk to people that have had success, they're like, I owe it to this dude. Because of him, I have my restaurant. Because of him, I have tens of millions of dollars in real estate. Or because of Mr. Blazar, I now own all these different businesses. And so I kind of call myself also the dream maker, because when you learn how to attract and raise capital, it really opens the door to doing so many other things in life. And, if you've ever heard of or read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about investing in assets. See, this is something that we don't teach our students in school. We teach them how to fit into society, how to get a job, how to exchange our time for a paycheck. When in reality, if we take our discretionary income and we start investing in things like real estate or small businesses that create passive income, we can get to a place of financial freedom pretty quickly. Because as long as our passive income offsets our rent and our other financial obligations, you see, we don't need to have $1 million or $2 or $3 million. We just need to have the passive income to meet our living expenses. Now we're financially free. Now we can start focusing on other things. But he also talks in the book about the principle of the OPM game. And OPM, of course, stands for other people's money. It's learning how to find people that will write you a check or invest with you and say, I believe in you. Let's partner on this. Let me give you the capital. You operate the business, and then let's share in the profits. And, for a lot of people, doing something as simple as flipping a house, going in and just doing the renovation work and, making it pretty, you can walk away with $30,000, $40,000 on the back end of that, if not more. And for a lot of people, that is their path to now a whole new lifestyle. Maybe it's paying off bills. Maybe it's seeing now a future where they can put their children through university, do those types of things.
How long does it take?
A lot faster than you actually would believe. I always tell people that once you are investor ready, meaning you have the assets, the pitch deck or the elements of the things you need, which doesn't take long to put those together. Typically, those take no more than maybe 3 to 6 weeks. The second phase is really just the attraction and the onboarding of investors. We have a blueprint and a system in place where I can take a complete stranger that doesn't know you, walk them through a proven blueprint and process where in about 4 to 5 weeks, they're actually investing with you and writing you a check. Sometimes a check might be, $20,000, $40,000, and depending on how wealthy they are, it could easily be upwards of $100,000. So it's not like it takes a long time. We have people actually that have come into our community that have raised as much as $2 million, $3 million in a short framework as 60 to 90 days.
That is pretty damn fast. Pardon my French. Let's call it French privilege. How do you tell me a bit more about how do you market, Brad? I mean, I believe to see something very specific in the background of your studio right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? So, what has worked for you to attract your ICP and to get people to raise their hand and be like, "I want to raise capital on top of my head," pun intended. So, what has worked for you to attract the right people at the right time?
Well, it's interesting. I follow a lot of people on social media because social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, has really opened the door to so many businesses and created opportunities that just were not available even 5 years ago. And I heard from one person that's become my personal coach and also a very good friend of mine. His name is Coach Michael Burt, B-U-R-T. If you don't follow Coach Michael Burt, you should definitely follow him. He's a short, little, bald guy, but he has been a professional coach for his entire career. He actually started coaching at the age of 15 years old, women's basketball in the local high school and junior high, and then eventually moved into teaching and coaching girls and took a number of girls all the way to the national championship title. But what he said was really interesting. He said, when you're in business, realize you're not in business, you're in show business. See, the more people that know you, the more people that see you, the more people that perceive you as a person of interest, the more your business will grow. The more money you will earn. And so, we have a number of agencies we work with. We have professional videographers, and every day on social media, I am sharing content. Could be short form content, little 60-second reels on Instagram, Facebook. Could be the longer form content that you see on YouTube, which are more of the educational videos or other things, because that creates interest, much like a commercial where somebody says, oh, I like that. Let me click on that to get more information. And so naturally that generates leads that come into my sales team. So number one, first and foremost, is social media today. Number two is basically being on stage, being in front of an audience. I don't believe there's anything better for a business owner or an entrepreneur to connect with an audience of people at a live event. And so I have people on my team and my operations that reach out to all the event planners all around the world. Hey, Brad's a keynote speaker. He shared the stage with some of the most famous celebrities on the planet. Do you have an opening for him to come and impact your event and share what it is he does with your audience? And actually then from that event, a lot of people express interest in our services and talk to our team and perhaps decide to move forward and come to an event that I'm hosting or seek out some help on the coaching and mentoring. And then, of course, the third is really what I call the tangible assets. I'm a 3-time author working on book number 4. I've been interviewed on some of the biggest podcasts around the world, been interviewed on radio and television, and of course yours as well, consulting leaders, absolutely. And so really it's the visibility, it's getting out there. And here's what I tell people. I say, when it comes to raising capital, you don't need more money. What you need is more people, because the people have the money. So if you can get the visibility and you can get yourself out there and become known, right, in the world will compensate and reward you based on your skills, your talents, and more importantly, what it is you're capable of doing for other people. And so it's really a combination of all of those things. I wouldn't say it's just one, but if I had to start all over again and, roll back the clock and say, okay, what would Brad do if he was starting all over again? It would definitely, I think, be number one, probably the social media, the podcasting, and also the advertising through Facebook and the meta platforms and just getting my name out there.
So I'm a bit biased here. So first of all, I love it. I think too many B2B coaches and consultants rely only on referrals, which is, I'm going to say it, bold statement, dangerous for your business, because the day this stops, you don't have growth anymore. You stall at best. So social media, events, podcasts, I love it. Because I'm biased, I'm going to go towards podcast. Talk to me about that, Brad. So why, how, what, how do you make it work? Can you tell us a bit more about what you do that makes your podcast work to help you grow your business?
Well, I think it's a couple things. A lot of people, of course, have podcasts, and the podcast is there, it exists, but it doesn't scale, it doesn't grow, it doesn't get followed, and it doesn't get monetized. It's I do this podcast, but I really haven't figured out how to monetize that and make it congruous to my business. So I think there's a couple things. Number one is I want to compliment you on your intro. I think you really need to have a good intro, and I think you need to have a good outro that communicates to the audience of people that you're catering to. And so if you've ever watched our show, the Capital Show, we spent a lot of time looking for the right marketing agency that could create that intro and outro, and it has the countdown timer and like the rocket ship taking off. Why? Because here in Houston, Texas, Mission Control, it's NASA. And we talk about, hey, you're here at the Blazar podcast studios at Mission Control. So it's the branding. I think the second thing also is it's the quality of your guests, right? Are you attracting big time people? Are you interviewing people on your show that other people want to hear from? Now, with that being said, you don't need to be interviewing celebrities all the time, like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or, Grant Cardone, or rich, famous celebrities. But every now and then you should have for your community kind of what I call a treat. It's a big time person. Like, hey, man, I'm so excited. Like next week we're interviewing Grant Cardone, or we're interviewing, this person that all of you are going to know, and you're definitely going to want to dial in and listen. And I think the third is in every episode, and this is really where I think a lot of people fall flat on their face, but it is such an easy thing to solve for, is you need to have the call to action a couple times. If you really like what you heard today, please hit the button below and become a subscriber, or give us a review. And so it's, increasing the subscriber base. But then also during your show, if you're hosting events or you have a service, it's talking about that. Maybe you talk about it in a way where it's not you. So as an example, right? Let's say I was doing a boot camp, which I am doing in April, right? I would interview a speaker that is going to be at my event so that my community could get to know that speaker before they're at my event live in a couple of months. But then during our episode, I would say something like, hey, let's talk about my event coming up. I know you're going to be there as a speaker and you're going to be adding a lot of value. What is it you're going to be talking about at our event in April? And so I'm selling my event in the future, using my platform to monetize my show, but also now get people excited about meeting this person that's actually going to be there live. So there's, I think, a lot you can do with a podcast. And I know there's a lot of agencies out there, of course, that help people with podcasts. Today, I think you just really need to learn by going to either Chat GPT or listening to some of the better podcasts and seeing what it is they do on their shows, so that you can also have a really, really good show too. And then it's getting out on the same, platforms, whether you use Podbean or something, so that you're on iTunes and you're on, Spotify, and, you're on YouTube. So many people just create a podcast and they create that limited exposure where they're just like, oh, I got a YouTube channel and it's there. Well, dude, nobody knows about your YouTube channel, but they're going to iTunes, they're going to Spotify, they're going to Podbean, they're going to all these places to get the live streaming events. Pay a little bit of money and get your podcast distributed, so that now you've got that distribution and you can really grow your show and grow your fan base.
Amen to that.
Yep.
What's your number one challenge, Brad? What is the nut that you're trying to crack that, once you crack, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level?
I think this is for any business owner. It's exposure. It's just being known by more people. It was really funny when I started my platform and started doing this almost, 6 years ago. I wanted to be the number one consultant and coach in the state of Texas. And so my coach that I hired said, you're thinking way too small. He said, why not the entire United States? Why not the entire world? People raise money in other countries. And so I said, wow, you're absolutely right. And so we started marketing. And, today we got clients we work with in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, of course, here in the United States. over in the Middle East, Latin America, many of the European countries as well. And so, we have people now, it's really kind of humbling for me. But as an example, when I host an event here in the United States, we just hosted an event in Austin, I literally get people that cross continents. Like they fly 20 hours to come to my damn events. Like we had people that flew all the way from Australia to the United States for a 2-day event with me. We have people that have come from Canada, from England, from Spain, from Italy, from Dubai. And so when you start to build the influence and you start really to shape and affect people's lives, number one, of course, they want to learn, but it's also the networking in the community that's being built. And really, I think that is what we've created here at Capital Connections. It is this global platform and community of people that identify. And when I start my events, the very first thing I do is I talk about the right mindset. I said, today, everybody here, whether you're new to this or whether you're seasoned and more advanced, I want to give you a new identity. I want you to wear this proudly right here on your chest and say after me, I am a capital raiser. You see, now they've taken on that identity, and their belief system and their habits will slowly take over to shape that belief to then ultimately make them successful. But I think that that's really the biggest challenge for any business owner, is just to be, better known. It's exposure. It's, getting on bigger stages. It's, meeting more people. It's networking. It's referrals. It's really all of those things that will help grow and really amplify the business and just take it to a whole nother level.
Amen to that. Brad Blazar, ladies and gentlemen. Brad, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, find you on your socials, where should they go?
Just go to social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. And if you just go to Google and just put in my name, Brad Blazar, or who is Brad Blazar, just make sure that you're spelling it correctly. My last name has no E's. It's B-L-A-Z, like zebra, A-R. You'll just see I pop up all over your computer screen. And we'd love to talk to you. I always tell people it all starts with something as simple as a free telephone call. No obligation. We call it basically a discovery call to kind of see where you are in life, what it is you're wanting to do. And if we have any tools or resources or things that we think can really help you, we'll certainly talk about those. If not, we'll have a great, wonderful, friendly conversation and we'll part amicably as friends. But it's just, bradblazar.com, B-L-A-Z-A-R, and you can check out my books. You can listen to my podcast. You can see the tools and resources we also have if you're currently a capital raiser, or if that is something that you would like to learn more about. And then it's just a matter of just starting that journey.
So I'm going to pause here and note something. For every coaches and consultants going out there on other people's podcasts, those are my 3 favorite call to actions, which Brad just absolutely nailed here. Follow me on socials, easy call to action. Hey, I have a lead magnet, call to action towards booking a call. Hey, if you like this and you want more of this, I have a podcast myself. I think that's so first of all, we'll put all the links in the descriptions, of course, so you can go and check out Brad. But I think this is a masterclass at back to marketing, right? And not relying only on referrals. If you go on someone else's podcast, you tap into an audience of people who are, guess what, listening to podcasts. So a fantastic call to action is, hey, more value, connect with me, and the same format as you've already enjoyed. Yep. Brad, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
It's been a pleasure. You've been a fantastic host. I do a lot of these, and I know a good host when I see one. So congratulations for all your success, and invite me back at any time.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.